Hey y'all. Hi, I haven't done a video like this in quite a while. So I'm starting off, I'm going to burn a little bit of sage and just kind of clear and take a big deep breath for myself. The reason I haven't done a video in a while, honestly, is because feel like I have been spending more time inward and focused in more introspective areas while still witnessing and experiencing and observing not only myself but things outside of myself. And I'm going to be honest, some of the things that I want to share today are still like in this thought process. Things are still percolating with me. These ideas and observations that I want to share with you, they're still forming. So I want to be clear about that. And, I want to just start by saying, in some ways I feel like I'm addressing, what do they say? What is that saying? The big elephant in the room. And so what I really want to speak to is one part of what feels like some division that has worked its way into spiritual communities. As I have, observed, and so I want to start by saying that we all observe in different ways. So this is simply my observation, and I will refrain from saying that anything is right or wrong because I don't really feel that. So I'm a little bit hesitant because let's be honest, right now, saying what you feel in a public way, which is what I'm doing right now, has become, a way to that some people use to misunderstand, to I don't know. Let's just dive in. You all know what I mean by all of this, and I'm dancing around, trying to make this, feel okay for everybody. And we all have to make those decisions for ourselves, don't we? What may be okay for me doesn't feel comfortable and okay for somebody else. And that's just the way that it is. So what has been percolating for me is I have been, while I haven't been vocal publicly, I have been observing, listening, witnessing, holding, talking circles myself, being a part of other circles, and just listening. And what I am feeling is that we are using a lot of words that means something different to each of us. And this is where a lot of the misunderstandings, confusion, even people feeling offended or just all of it, where all of this stuff is coming up. And I think it's because we are using a vocabulary that is not universal. Because what starts to happen in spiritual circles is we use one word to mean something different, something else. And I have some examples. Those of you that know me and that have been in circles with me and teaching circles, you know that I love the dictionary. And I really like to get down and break things down. So I went to the dictionary. And so here is what I looked up. And I'm just going to read some definitions to you. So the first definition, the first word that I looked up is the word faith. Faith. And the definition is strong belief in God or the doctrine of religion based on spiritual understanding rather than proof. Based on spiritual understanding rather than proof. So faith is something that you strongly believe that has no proof, no factual evidence for it. And I think that faith is a place where we all are. We have faith in many different things. So then the next word that I looked up was belief. And the definition of belief is an acceptance that a statement is true or something exists. It is a firmly held opinion or conviction. So belief is an opinion. It is an acceptance that something is true or exists, and it's an opinion. So it's an acceptance. So that is really interesting to me, because I've heard the word belief used in a lot of different ways. You know, I've heard people in circles say, we all have many different beliefs. And a belief is a firmly held opinion. Okay, hang in there with me for a few more minutes, okay? So the next word that I looked up was position, as in I take a position on this, or my position on this issue, right? So position is a person's point of view or perspective towards something, which is kind of like the belief, but the belief is an acceptance, and the position is a point of view or perspective. The next word that I looked up was truth. And truth is the property of being in accord with fact or reality. So then, of course, I had to look up fact. And facts are independent of beliefs. They are proven. So, wow, this is just a lot, because we talk about belief a lot. And when I think a lot of us are using the word belief and we mean faith. Because, you know, what I hear spoken into many circles is we all have different beliefs, and all beliefs are accepted and honored. But I think they mean faith. And faith is that path to God, right? Faith is the path that we choose to God. And it is based, faith is a strong belief in God or a doctrine or religion based on spiritual understanding rather than proof. And so I will never question someone else's spiritual understanding. And I often quote Bishop Sprong. He's an Episcopal bishop, retired now, I believe. And he has this long, eloquent, beautiful quote. But basically what he says in it is that there are many, many paths to God, to spirit, to the divine. There are many words for God. So there are many paths to God. My path does not define God, it defines me. And I hold that in my heart, you know, because my relationship, my path really does define me, who I am and how I am in the world. But it does not define Creator God, something that to me is undefinable. That's faith. That's my faith. So faith, belief, position, truth, and so all of this, what I think I am observing happening is the confusion between some of these words, because we can have a position on political issues, on social issues, and I think what's happening in our spiritual community, in the larger spiritual community, is that we are confusing political and social positions or perspectives with belief and faith. And so what I am understanding in this is that belief is an opinion. So, you know, it is not faith. It is not the same thing as faith. Belief is an opinion. And our opinions are formed through our own experiences, through our feelings, through what we witness in the world. And no two people are going to have exactly the same opinion or belief on any given thing, on any given statement or thing that exists. You know, it is an acceptance that a statement is true or something exists. It is a firmly held opinion. So here is an example that I will give, and this is an example of something that I have witnessed in the world. So you can have two people of the same faith. Let's say the Christian faith. There is doctrine there. Their interpretation of that faith may be different, but they are of the same faith. Yet, I have witnessed some people of the Christian faith who believe and hold the perspective and the opinion that that race exists and that the white race is superior. That's a belief. I also know people in the Christian faith, who hold the belief and perspective that we are all equal and that there is no such thing as race. So, this carries over into all spiritual communities, all of them, whether it is, a spiritual community that follows paganism, animism, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, all of these. And what I think is happening in the spiritual community, the community that doesn't have that doctrine, because, what we call the organized religions have doctrine. They still have faith, and people can have different beliefs, perspectives, and opinions within the same faith. Or they can have different political or social positions, even though they carry the same faith. So, and that's based on their belief and their interpretation and their acceptance of certain things, right? So our belief brings us to our position, our political or social position. So, which brings me to the next thing. And I talk about this often, but there is the idea in our spiritual communities that judgment is a very bad thing and that we should not be judging. And, I have an agreement with that in a very focused way, because as human beings, judgment and discernment are two of the tools that we use. Number one, to protect ourselves, to set boundaries, to protect ourselves physically, emotionally. We must use judgment and discernment. So judgment has gotten a really bad rap in a lot of the New Age teachings out there. But it's not judgment that is negative or bad, because judgment is really what we form our opinions through. It's how we form our opinions. Judgment and discernment, saying, yes, that feels okay to me and that does not feel okay to me. That is a judgment. Saying I like this brand of peanut butter and not that brand of peanut butter, that's a judgment too. Making a judgment to jump off a cliff with a parachute as not being safe and deciding not to do it, that's a judgment. And once we make the judgment, then we use our discernment to maneuver through the judgment. And those things are important for us. Again, it's how we stay safe. It's how we interact in the world, is through judgment and discernment. It is when we try to impose our own judgment on others or make others, have the same judgment that we do, that I think we get into trouble. In other words, if I make a judgment that, there is a person who is not healthy for me to be around, that's a safe judgment for me to make, and I can set my own boundaries and make my own decisions around that judgment based on what I'm witnessing, either the behavior, the actions of that person. So I can make a judgment that I do not feel safe or I do not feel comfortable being around that person, so I make that judgment. Where judgment comes in a negative way to me is if I make that judgment for myself and then I try to get everybody else on the same page with me, so that everybody that I know is now turned against this person. That's where it's not okay for me, in my observation of it. So judgment and discernment are really powerful things, and we have to use judgment and discernment every single day. And I have heard folks say that, well, I don't think they're behaving in a way that feels good to me. And then they'll say, but I'm not judging. Well, you are, and it's okay. We shouldn't be ashamed to use our judgment and our discernment, which has nothing to do with faith, but it does form our beliefs. And it also creates our positions politically and socially. And I feel like, using these words is really important in how we look at them and use them. And here's the thing, that when it all gets jumbled up together and we confuse political positions or social positions with faith and belief, and we get all of that confused up together, here's what happens. It shuts down engagement and communication. It shuts it down. Because it is okay for me to say, to someone else who believes that the white race is supreme, it's okay for me to judge that as incorrect. It's my discernment to say, no, that's not for me. And then I form my opinion or my belief around it, which to me, I do not believe that white people are supreme. And I'm using that because it is a social judgment. It's a social position that is also political, because my social position on that also brings me into my political beliefs about who I support and who I don't support to make the laws in this country that I live in. So my positions dictate my beliefs, which dictate my actions. None of it has to do with my faith in God, my faith in the divine, in Creator, my communication with Creator, my understanding. None of it has anything to do with that. But we're really getting all of this kind of jumbled up together now, aren't we? Where faith and politics, and spiritual ideology and spiritual understanding is getting muddied by social and political positions. And there's a lot of social and political positions out there that I don't agree with. I don't agree with it at all. And my faith, works through me in helping me understand all of this. But what's happening is what I'm witnessing that's happening in these spiritual communities is that social, political positions are creating divides in our spiritual community. And that's the elephant in the room. All of this to say, I've been talking for 17 minutes, and all of this to say that these things are getting so interlocked in together that we're having trouble pulling them apart. There are questions that come up around all of this. I don't have all the answers. These are all my thoughts. But here's what I do know. So I'm going to go back to that word truth. Truth is the property of being in accord with fact or reality, and it is proven, and it is independent of belief. And so I use words all the time, like it's important that we stand in our truth. Okay, what I mean by that, by the definition of the word truth, we can only know what is true for us, but is it proven? Is it fact? What I think I mean on a deeper level is to be centered, to stand in the center of ourselves, to be in that center. That truth, my truth, is different from other people's truth. And so when I think about standing in the center, so then of course I looked up the word center, and it is the middle point of a circle or sphere, equidistant from every point on the circumference or surface, which means, sphere, right in the middle, being in the middle. And I've said, quite often here in these last few weeks or months even, the only thing that I know to be true, the only thing that I absolutely know to be true is within about a 3-foot radius of my nose, right here around me. So the things that I know to be true, are things that I have witnessed firsthand, experienced, been a part of. And I know that to be true. Now, I can watch a YouTube video, or I can watch, a documentary. I can watch things. And because I did not experience it firsthand, because it's not, my truth, what I can do is bring that information in and see how it lands in my center. But I don't know it to be true. We are living in an age now where digital manipulation, psychological manipulation, Emotional manipulation is prevalent. We are. And there are people in the spiritual community who are pointing a lot of fingers at others, and it's based on beliefs, it's based on opinions, and it's based on beliefs and opinions and convictions. It's not necessarily based in truth. I cannot know everything that is true. I can know what resonates with my center. And so I believe that our faith is important in each and every one of us, and that I can be open to everyone's faith, because that is their personal connection to God, to Creator, to the divine, to all that is. That's personal. And so I honor all faiths and all individual expressions of multiple faiths, and I can hold that. Based in my beliefs and my political and social positions, there are things happening in the world that I judge and discern as not in alignment with life-giving energy. Oppression, flat out lies. There's a lot that I witness out there that for me is not in alignment. And I use my judgment and my discernment to recognize what is and what isn't in alignment with me. And I use my judgment and discernment also when I see something that is not life-affirming, oppresses others, holds others down, limits others. I'm going to speak up. I'm going to say it, and I'm going to speak up. And that is my choice, and it is based in my faith, my political and social positions, my belief, and me standing in my center. And while all of these are separate from each other, they're intertwined. So there is a lot here. I made notes, I've seen a lot of people in our spiritual community go on and off of Facebook, citing that it's toxic or the division is too much. But I think all of these things that I'm sharing right now are reasons why there is division. Faith, belief, your position, perspective on an issue, truth, judgment, discernment, all of this. And here's the thing, we throw these words around like they are almighty powerful. Don't judge, we shake fingers, don't judge. And then we try to, we make judgments because we can't not make judgments. We just can't not make judgments. This is what we do. This is how we move through life. Every moment is a judgment. So judgments are not bad. They're not a bad thing. But I do find it fascinating that someone will make a judgment on another person, place, or thing, and then say, but I'm not judging, thinking that judging is wrong. So what if we learned healthy discernment? What if we learned to use our judgment by using our minds, what is logical, what makes sense, what is possible and probable? That's how we make judgments, and how we use discernment is to go through all of these things. It's really complicated out there right now. It is incredibly complicated. And I will just say, I have a lot of people, not just from the United States, primarily the United States, but around the world and other countries, that come to me just heartbroken because of all of these things that I'm sharing. And I'm not even talking about very specific issues, This is the big general thing, right? But I do believe that we are confusing political and social positions with spirituality and with spiritual faith. And we have to separate those two. Yeah. So I think we need to talk more to each other. We need to ask more questions. You know, I know people who are afraid to post on social media what they believe or their political or social position because they're afraid of judgment. I get it. I get it. And I don't believe that social media is the place to have deep engagement. I'll be the first one to say that. I do not believe that social media is the place to have deep engagement. But we have to be open to asking questions. You know, how is this possible? How can this be? Why do you think this? What are you afraid of? You know, what brings fear in me? All of these questions, we can have those conversations, but we can't do it to be typing on our phones or on our computers. We've lost that art of deep engagement through communication because we are busy. We're busy. We're really busy. Busy. I don't know how else to say it. So there is a lot, you know, that I'm sitting here with that is still yet unsaid. And I will continue to form these thoughts and observations and share more. And I'm really genuinely curious of what you think, Here's what I will say for me. I have a deep faith. I have a deep faith. And that faith is what sustains me most often. That faith is what sustains me. And I walk in that faith every single day. Whether I am, you know, in formal ceremony or not, that faith holds me. My political and social positions and my beliefs are open to change through engagement, through deeper understanding, through asking questions. So I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to do that. And my faith is what carries me through it all. My faith is what keeps me connected to all of the people that I love, even when I disagree, even when I feel afraid for what their political positions might be. It's a lot out there. So I am breathing deeply. I am pondering all of these things. And yeah. So I would love to know what you really think, what you really feel, what your positions are, what your beliefs are. Your faith is yours. And I trust that. And I trust mine. Blessings and love.